Welcome back to Estate Planning 101 with Dr. Titi Adegbile, and it's wonderful to be back here with you. I hope you have interacted with previous editions. I hope you are making decisions as to what to do, and I hope you are taking the necessary steps. Today, we want to talk about questions on estate planning. We're going to ask questions, we're going to answer questions today in this episode. Before we start, have you clicked the subscribe button? Have you clicked the like button? Have you shared with anyone yet? Have you made a comment? Please do. Please do so. We're talking today about questions. We want to answer questions on estate planning. And the first question is, why estate planning? Why? Why? You know, material possessions are for this world only. We all work so hard all our adult lives to provide for our own people. We invest, we build up possessions, but remember that each one of us is only a custodian of resource. In other words, you hold on to property for your lifetime only. Thereafter, it belongs to others after you. So, the implication is that nothing really belongs to you or I. After all, we are only custodians. And this must be the reason why several of the parables of our Lord Jesus Christ taught about investments and giving account at a later stage. Yes, we will give account of the resources He put in our care and how we utilize them. Yes, we will give account about the chaos on the one hand, or the peace, tranquility, and satisfaction on the other hand that we leave behind when we are no more. We will give account of how nonchalant, how careless, or how prudent we have been with resources that He made available to us. You know, I have heard people say, what will be, will be. All will be well. It doesn't matter what happens. After all, I would not be there anymore. Some others say, tomorrow will take care of itself. Many of us have a laissez-faire attitude. Anything, it doesn't matter. Who cares what happens when I'm gone? My family will sort themselves out when the time comes. Or my family is a Christian family. My spouse and children are born again. But then the foregoing could be very presumptuous. Let's now go to another question. What exactly is the meaning of estate? Estate. In legal terms, your estate is the aggregate of all you own, your assets and your liabilities alike. Generally speaking, whatever you own that has a monetary value is your asset. An asset is any resource owned by a business or an economic entity or by an individual. It is anything that can be owned or controlled to produce value. Anything which is held by an economic entity and that could produce positive economic value. That is an asset. What are tangible assets? Tangible assets are any assets that have a physical presence, such as buildings, plant and machinery, equipment. Is your car an asset? The short answer is, well, yes, generally. Your car is an asset, but it's a different type of asset than other assets. Your car is a depreciating asset. Your car begins to lose value the moment you drive it off the dealer's showroom, and it continues to lose value as time goes on. Now, what are intangible assets? Intangible assets are assets that have no physical presence, such as treasury bills, stocks and shares, mutual funds. Yes, Those are intangible assets. What is a liability? A liability is, loosely speaking, an obligation. So for many of us, we have both assets and liabilities. Now, let's examine some of what could constitute your estate. What could your estate comprise? Your estate could have real estate, that is, land, warehouse, buildings, and so on. It's not every land that you buy that you want to build. Some land could be for speculation or for investment purpose. So aside real estate, you could also have bank account balances. You could have stocks and shares. Yes. You could have pension plans. You could have insurance policies, other investments. You could even have your share of inheritance. So, what does your estate look like? Do you know that most people have no clue, and they have never taken out time to keep records of what comprise their estate? Some other people have some records of what they own, but the information is outdated. And I'll give you an example of a gentleman who donated his property to a church, but he had forgotten that that same property, which had been donated by way of a document called a deed of gift, was also the subject matter of a valid will. So at the time the man died, it became very problematic because his daughter, who had a copy of the will, could see that the property had been donated to her. Meanwhile, in the lifetime of this elderly gentleman, he had donated the property to the church. So we all need to update the records we have so that we don't have confusion in our wake. What does your estate look like? For some people, the mere thought of your mortality scares you. For others still, they're so scared of keeping track of their property that they keep procrastinating till it is too late. There's also a live example of a 40-year-old lady who thought it wise that she ought to have a will because she had quite a number of property. The problem is, after her lawyer drew up that will and showed her a draft to say, "Madam, have a look, cross the I's, cross the T's, dot the I's, and let's go ahead," she kept procrastinating until the gentleman, the lawyer, called her on New Year's Day of a given year to say, "Happy New Year, ma'am." But she was gone. It was her daughter who picked the call. Now, you don't want that happening to you. So, estate planning is key. What does your estate look like? Is it unwieldy or is it orderly? You know, one man said jokingly to his wife, "When the Iroko tree falls, don't cry, just go under our bed. That's where you get all my important documents. Carry the box full of documents and run. Place them in a secure place. Then after come home to cry and to mourn me." Now, I'm sure you had a smile on your face just now. That was this gentleman's crude way of saying, "I want to plan my estate. I know that anything could happen when I'm gone. My relatives could swoop in on you, demanding all what I have worked for." He had a crude way of doing that, but he understood the essence of estate planning, that you do not need to have confusion when you're gone. And the only way you could secure that is when in your lifetime you have sorted out your estate. Remember, this is Estate Planning 101 with Dr. Titi Adegbile. And today we're answering questions. What are estate planning vehicles that you could adopt? There are many ways to plan your estate. Let's just mention for now a few of them. The most common of all, and the easiest and the most inexpensive, would be a last will and testament. A last will and testament. Another estate planning vehicle would be what we call inter vivos gift. Inter vivos gift. That's a gift you make to someone else while you are alive. Then you have a trust. We'll talk about that in one of the episodes to come. You also have an incorporated entity. You could also have a combination of the vehicles we have mentioned ahead of us. Is estate planning only for the rich? Not at all. It does not matter whether you're a man or a woman, you're old or you're young, you're employed or unemployed, you're self employed, you're a business person, a professional, a blue collar person, a white collar person. Every one of us needs to plan our estate. So, where do we start? You start by being thankful for what you have. When you start to count your blessings, you realize there is plenty of room to thank God and think of better days ahead of you. Start with what you have. I have heard many people complain, but I don't have much property. You'll be surprised that yes, you do have property to give away. Why is estate planning so important? Estate planning is very important because it protects your beneficiaries. The main component of estate planning is designating heirs for your assets, whether it's your building or your stock portfolio or your life assurance benefits or your pension benefits. Without an estate plan, the courts will often decide who gets your assets. And that is a process that can take years. It's a process that attracts legal fees and it could get ugly. After all, a court doesn't know which sibling has been responsible and which one should not have free access to your cash, nor will the courts automatically rule that the surviving spouse gets everything. If you die without a will, which is a vital part of an estate plan, the courts will decide who gets your assets. The second reason why estate planning is so important is because it protects young children. Nobody thinks of dying young, but if you're the parent or grandchild of small children, you need to prepare for the unthinkable. And that's where the will portion of an estate plan comes in, to ensure that your children are cared for in a manner in which you approve. You'd want to name their guardians. In the event that both parents die before the children turn 18, without such a will, the courts will again step in. This time is not to determine who gets a piece of real estate or artwork, it's to decide who will raise your children. Why is estate planning so important? Number 3, beneficiaries are spared huge tax payments when there's an estate plan. Estate planning is all about protecting your loved ones, which means in part you're giving them protection from the revenue service. It is essential to estate planning to transfer assets to heirs with an eye toward creating the smallest possible tax burden for them. Even with just a little bit of estate planning, couples can reduce much or even all of their estate taxes and state inheritance taxes, which can get very pricey. There are also ways to reduce the income tax beneficiaries might have to pay. But without a plan, the amount that your heirs will owe government could be a pretty sum. Yet another reason why estate planning is so important, it eliminates family messes. We've all heard the horror stories. Someone with money dies and the war between family members begins. One sibling may say they deserve more than the other, or one sibling may think they should be in charge of the finances, even though they are notorious for racking up debts. Such squabbling can get ugly and even end up in court with family members pitted against each other. Stopping fights before they start is yet another reason why an estate plan is necessary, because it will enable you choose who controls your finances and assets if you become mentally incapacitated, or after you die. It will go a long way toward quelling family strife and ensuring that your assets are handled in the way that you intend them to be. So what are we talking about? We're saying that estate planning allows you to choose who gets what. Estate planning affords you the chance to name your children's guardian in the event of your early death. Estate planning reduces taxes on what you leave behind. Estate planning is a mark of preparation. Estate planning shows you are organized. It shows you have put your house in order. And once you attain adulthood, you should have a will or other estate plan. Estate planning minimizes the chances of family strife and ugly legal battles. Finally, for today, we want to talk about the effects of neglect to plan your estate. So, if you don't plan your estate, what could happen? Number one, your property may fall into wrong hands. Number two, those who you wish to bless with your acquisitions may never have access to them. Number three, government may take over your assets if there is contention amongst possible beneficiaries of your estate. Number four, charities you wish to include in the distribution of your estate will never receive any benefit except it is already properly articulated in writing. And so, we call it a day for today, but please do remember, think over what we have discussed, take action, and remember to subscribe to this channel. Remember to share this information. Remember to make your comments and to like this page. Once again, this is Estate Planning 101 with Dr. Titi Adegbile. Remember, it's all about leaving an enduring estate and legacy after you. Thank you.